Looking for Morris. Where is he at? First? Okay, great. Morris. Yep.
Come on out, Morris. Talk to us.
Oh, hey, Morris, how are you? Don Wruck, I'll be your lawyer for today. Let me talk to you for a second. Can we sit down here? Great. All right, you've been down this road before, right? Okay. Today's hearing, the court's going to want to hear a little bit about what happened. They're going to want to make a decision whether or not to release you today. What do you want to have happen?
I want to get relief.
Okay. I think your mom's here. What do you think she's going to say?
She gonna say she want me to come home
Okay, well, that's...
and do counseling.
All right, did you test positive for marijuana when you came in?
Mm-hmm.
You did?
Yeah.
All right. The court's going to ask you why you were using marijuana. Do you know how you'd answer that?
Yeah, I was gonna tell them I was in a car with people. They was smoking marijuana. They let me
Okay.
hit it.
Okay.
I ain't gonna lie about it. And that was it. I ain't no big smoker like that.
All right, what about, this isn't your first time here, like we said, right?
Yeah.
Okay, one of the concerns that the court's going to have is if the judge releases you today, that you're going to end up doing the same thing all over again. Tell me about some of the things that you're involved in, or some of the things that we can talk to the court about that'll convince her that it's right to let you home.
I don't understand.
What do you do other than go home and sleep? You involved in any
In
activities?
the house,
You in school?
wash clothes, yeah, go to
Okay,
school.
you're 16, right?
16,
How are your grades in school?
C average.
You ever been
C
expelled?
average. Yeah, I've been expelled
How many times?
one time.
For what?
I think for fighting. Yeah, for
Okay,
fighting.
when was that?
Like in 7th grade.
7th grade?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that I note is that the probation department's recommending that you stay locked up. All right, so we're going to have to, really, we have our work cut out for us. We have our work cut out for us. What are your plans with your life?
Go to school, get my education.
Finish school first, right?
Yeah, finish school, get my education, go to college,
Okay, what do you want to do?
real estate.
All right. You live with your mom?
Yes.
Anybody else live in the house with you?
My 2 sisters, my little brother and her boyfriend.
Where's your dad?
He stay at Griffith.
Do you see him often?
Yes.
How often?
Not like that, but probably every 2 weeks.
Okay. Does he know you're here?
Yeah, he do. She told me when she visited me.
Okay, is he okay with you being here, or does he think you should come home too?
Yeah, he think I should come home, him and my grandma. Everybody do. They don't even want me in here.
Okay, how long have you been here?
Since Saturday,
Okay. Last time you were here, how long did you stay here?
a week and a day, 8 days. I just want to go home.
What, the judge lets you go home, you gonna be able to tell her that you're not gonna do anything that's gonna bring you back here?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh,
Anything else you can tell me that you think might help us out?
4 in 1 van.
Tell her she can give me house arrest.
You want house arrest?
Mm-hmm.
You want to be on house arrest?
I want to be on house arrest.
Why would you want to be on house arrest? Usually that's somebody that,
So I can get my stuff together, so I can prove that I'm a good kid, so I won't be outside smoking marijuana.
do you think
Even
you
if I
need-
do get out, I'm not finna smoke marijuana no more, or cigarettes.
do you think you're addicted to marijuana?
Mm-mm.
You addicted to cigarettes?
Mm-mm.
All right, so you can stop if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I need you to make sure you speak nice and loud.
Mhm.
You know,
The lady told me to. She like when people speak loud.
Yeah. Okay. So let me get this straight. You want to be on house arrest.
Yes.
You want the judge to release you from detention, but place you on house arrest. Meaning you're gonna have an ankle bracelet
Yeah.
and restrictions on when and where you can
Where
go.
I be at, yes.
Why do you think you need to be on house arrest?
So I can prove that I'm not finna mess up no more. I'm not finna smoke, not finna miss school. Well, I don't miss school, not finna miss counseling. So they can just know where I'm at home or at school, or my counselor, or my probation officer.
One of the things that's useful, in my experience, is to come to the court and say, yes, I did wrong, and I need help with certain things, kind of like what
that's
you're
what I was
doing.
gonna do.
All right. What types of things do you think you need help with, apart from being on house arrest? You mentioned counseling. Are there other?
Anger.
Okay. Okay, your anger? Tell me
Yes.
about your anger.
I got a temper problem, anger problem.
Give me an example of,
Like stuff like we be at the house and my mom made me mad, I hit the wall. I
and when
punched
you
the
say
wall.
hit the wall, are you talking about
Punch.
tapping it, or are you talking about
Punch.
letting
Punch a
loose
hole
on it?
in it.
You ever hurt yourself doing that? You ever hurt the wall?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's marks on the wall from you.
Mm-hmm. While in the house, downstairs.
Have you ever gotten any help for that?
Counseling, anger management. But when they ain't do the anger management yet, I just had counseling.
Okay, well, here's the question. You've already had anger management. You've already had counseling. Why hasn't it helped?
I don't know. My mama said she think I probably need some medicine. I don't know.
Do you think you do?
I think I do, yeah.
I mean, when you get counseling, does it help you?
A little bit, it helped a little bit, but not like that. Because they're not solving the problem.
So what's the problem?
I just can't stop hearing stuff. Little stuff make me mad.
Is that why you use drugs?
Yeah, that help, but I don't do it just to be fitting in and making like just to smoke it just fit in. I just do it because it make me feel better.
You involved in any gangs?
No,
Never been?
no,
Ever tell anybody that you were?
no.
Okay. Okay, my friend, well, whatever the court decides, what I'm going to tell you is I don't want you reacting out loud in court. If the judge says you need to stay locked up, I don't want you getting angry, punching the wall, punching me,
Oh, no, I
jumping on
ain't
the
gonna do
table,
that.
none of that kind of stuff. Whatever it is, we'll deal with it, we'll move forward, okay?
Okay.
We'll do our best to present all the evidence that'll get you released, but if not, I want you to control yourself and be a man, okay? All right, I'll see you in there in a few minutes.
All right, sure.
Take care.
Nice meeting you.
All right, nice meeting you too. Hang out here for a few minutes.
I want to talk. So,
Unlock.
police had to catch up with you.
Door
You
is
couldn't.
denied. Door.
You know you had a court hearing. Didn't want to come.
I was scared. They said it would give me too easy
Cancel.
placement.
So you run away. Well, I'm not gonna recommend that you go home. I'm gonna try to keep you staying here so we can work something out.
I'm telling you, it's not gonna work, sir.
Okay, come on, something's gonna work. Let's go back to your house. You're not gonna run around like a chicken with your head cut off.
I can't get back home. I came home.
Yeah. You've been gone for almost a month.
No, I wasn't. That's my mama. She know. I did come home, and my sister.
You solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please be seated.
Your name, ma'am?
Angel Mosley?
And are you the child's mother?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Wruck, was your client advised of his rights?
He was, Judge.
Does he understand what his rights are?
Yes.
Any questions about them?
None.
All right, we're here this morning for a few reasons, one of which is he was arrested on a bench warrant that was issued from this court on July 24th. Magistrate Miller issued the warrant for failure to appear on a modification of his probation. Is that right?
That's correct, Judge.
In addition to that, I understand that when he came into this detention facility, he was thought to be high on marijuana and was in fact taken to the hospital to determine whether or not he was clear or at least sober to stay in this facility, and it was determined that he in fact tested positive for marijuana. This morning, Mrs. Guzik, do you have anything besides what I've just recited?
No, Judge, I just have the modification of information for me also.
All right. Mr. Fleming is present, the probation officer. Mr. Wruck, how do you want to proceed this morning? Do you want to address the issue of his bench warrant and why he failed to appear and then go into the modification, or what's your pleasure?
That's fine, Judge, and then I think we can then also address what the appropriate placement is moving forward for him.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Do you have any witnesses?
Yes, Judge, I would call Morris at this point to the stand.
All right, Morris, have a seat up here, please.
Go on up there. Tell us your name, young man.
Morris Burdett Jr.,
Where do you live, Morris?
5999 Grant Place.
Who do you live there with?
My mother, Angie Mosley.
Do you have any brothers or
My
sisters?
brothers and sisters, Alante Johnson, Alana Johnson, and Dorian Burdett.
Okay. Does your father live there?
No,
Where does he live?
he live in Griffith.
Okay. Morris, you were supposed to be in court back on July 24th. Do you remember that?
Yes,
You weren't here in court on July 24th, were you?
no.
Why not?
Because I was scared they were going to give me 2 years of placement.
You were scared?
Yes.
Why were you scared?
They were going to give me 2 years of placement.
Well, how did you think that not showing up for court was a better option than showing up for court?
I don't know.
Did you know that a bench warrant would be issued for your arrest?
Yes. I just want to go home. Do house arrest.
And how was it that you thought that not coming to court would be a better way to keep you home?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, let me ask this question. Is this something that's going to happen again?
No, sir.
Why not?
'Cause if I get out, I'm not going to do it no more. I'm going to go to court. And I'm going to go to counseling and do what I got to do.
Morris, what is the root of your problem, do you believe?
Anger problem.
And you had told me that one of the things that you tend to do is punch holes in walls.
Yes.
You also told me that one of the things that you've been going through already is anger management, correct?
Yes.
Do you believe that that's helped you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, what do you mean a little bit? Be more specific.
I improve. I don't argue with my mom no more or my little brothers and sisters. I don't punch holes anymore. I'm changing.
Okay. Do you respect your mother?
Yes.
Do you think she'll say that?
Yes.
Morris, if the court were to release you today, despite the fact that the reason you're here is because you didn't return to court when you were told to return to court, how is it that you can assure us that the next time there's a court hearing that you'll be back?
I'll be back. I'm gonna show up to court. She gonna make sure I show up to court.
Who?
My mom.
Do you think that it would be appropriate to have the court place restrictions on you in terms of where you can go and what you can do and who you can see?
Yeah.
Why so?
Can you say that again? I don't understand.
Well, you had indicated before that one of the things that you thought was a problem for you was the influence of other people, friends, things like that, that led you to smoke weed. And that restrictions through either your mom or through the court would be something that you thought would help you. Is that what you told me?
Yes.
Okay. What type of restrictions or rules would you like to have either the court or your mother put in place if you're released today?
I still don't understand.
Do you think you should be on house arrest?
Yes.
Why?
So they can know what I'm doing, know where I'm at, and know where I'm going.
Okay, well, why do you think that's necessary?
So they could just see where I'm at, see like if I'm doing bad things or good things, so I could just be at home so they can know where I'm at.
Okay. So Morris, is what you're saying that you're willing to follow your mom's rules and the court's order that you come back to court if necessary?
Yes.
And to prove how genuine that is, you're saying the court could even put an ankle bracelet on me, correct?
Yeah.
All right. Are you in school?
Yeah.
Where are you in school at?
Very high.
What grade are you in?
A sophomore.
Okay. How are your grades?
C average.
You failing any classes?
I don't know. I gotta go to school and find out.
When were you last in school?
In June,
Okay. When are you supposed to start school again?
Wednesday.
This Wednesday?
Yes.
If you're released today, is your plan to go to school?
Yes.
Judge, that's all I have right now.
Mrs. Guzik?
Morris, when you didn't come to court on July 24th, did your mother come?
Yes.
Were you home when she left to come to court?
No.
Where were you at?
I was outside,
Outside where?
down the street up in Hickory.
When did you leave the home before July 24th?
I left on the 23rd.
Okay.
Mhm.
Did you have your mom's permission to leave?
No.
Did she tell you not to leave?
No.
Have there been other times when you leave the home without your mom's permission?
Yes.
How many other times have you done that?
Well, I don't do it often. I can go outside when I want to go outside.
Well, are there times when you don't come home all night?
Sometimes.
And where do you go when you do that?
Down the street, like 5 houses down to my friend's house.
Does your mom always know where you're at?
Yes.
Does she want you down there?
Yes.
She wants you down there?
No, she don't care.
Have there been times when mom said come home and you haven't done that?
No.
So if you leave the home and you're just gone, your mother doesn't care?
Yeah, she care.
And you have her permission to be away from the home?
Yeah. Yes.
Did your probation officer ever talk to you about that?
No.
No? When you go to school, do you go to school every day?
Yes.
Your attendance is perfect?
Yes.
You're never missing without permission?
No.
Is that what your school records show?
Yes.
Judge, can I have a brief moment with my client?
Go ahead.
Okay. Be honest.
Okay.
I'm telling you, she's got all the records from your school.
Okay.
Listen to the question and answer it honestly. Don't make it worse. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else, Mrs. Guzik?
No, Judge.
All right, Mr. Wruck?
Morris, let me ask you a question. And I know this is an environment that there's a lot of stress in here, but I want to make sure that you understand the question and that you answer it truthfully.
Okay.
Are there times when your mother gives you rules about when you are supposed to be at home and you disobey those rules?
Can you say that again?
Are there ever times when your mother says, don't go out overnight or come home at a certain time, and you come home late?
Yes.
Are there times that that happens?
Yes.
Okay. How often does that happen?
It happen often.
Pretty often?
Yes.
Okay. Why, Morris, does that happen?
I just can't stay in the house all day. I can't stand still. I gotta go outside.
How is it, Morris, then, that the court should listen to your word today that you're not going to run away and you're going to follow your mom's rules and you're going to follow the court's rules when, by your admission, you have trouble doing that? How can you assure everybody in here today that that's not going to happen again?
Put me on house arrest.
That's why you were saying you needed that?
Yes.
Okay. Morris, do you also need help with dealing with anger management?
Yes.
Do you want help dealing with anger management?
Yes.
Do you want help dealing with the relationship between you and your mother and the authority that she exerts over you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I have, Judge.
Anything else?
No, Judge.
All right, thank you, Morris. You may have a seat next to your attorney. Next witness?
Judge, I would call Morris's mother, Angel, to the stand, please. Good job. I know you kind of get off track and you want to say the right answer. Tell the truth and we'll deal with it, okay?
Go ahead.
Tell us your name, please.
Angel Mosley.
Miss Mosley, what is your relationship to this young man here, Morris?
I'm his mother.
And you heard him testify today, correct?
Yes.
Angel, were you in court on July 24th, 2008?
Yes.
Was your son in court on July 24th, 2008?
No.
Did he know he had to be there that day?
Yes.
Why wasn't he?
He was afraid that they were going to keep him for 2 years in placement until he was 18. Someone told him that.
Did you talk with him about that?
Briefly, I didn't want to touch on it because I didn't want to get him shook up about it. I just wanted him to come to court.
And when he didn't, what were the circumstances surrounding his failure to appear that day?
I didn't see him after that. Before then, he would, we never really had a major issue with curfew, but after that court date, I didn't see him. His brothers and sisters had seen him, and I believe he was sneaking to the house when I was at work, but he was basically like a runaway.
So prior to July 24th, were there ever any other times when Morris has had court dates or court obligations that he's disappeared or failed to appear for?
Never.
So you believe that the only reason he failed to appear on July 24th was his mistaken belief that if he showed up, he'd go to jail until he was 18?
Correct.
Was that unusual type of behavior for him to disappear and not appear for a court date?
Yes, because he never disappeared and not appeared for court. Yes, that was unusual.
Does Morris have a problem with authority and respecting the rules of the house like he talked about?
He has a problem with anger.
Tell me about that.
I don't know exactly what triggers it, but he gets so frustrated with, I believe, himself. Basically about education, because he was behind and we didn't, he had a learning disability, and we didn't find out until later, and I believe it really, really bothers him. But running is not the solution.
Well, he's 16 years old, correct?
Correct.
A lot of 16-year-olds certainly have problems in school,
Exactly.
get angry,
Yes.
but not a lot of them punch holes through walls.
Yes.
So how is it with Morris that what needs to be done to help him?
Actually, I don't know what needs to be done. I don't know.
What help do you think we can?
I really can't say. I can't say what helps. We had a discussion yesterday when I visited him. That's the first time I've seen him cry in about 2 years. But as far as what helps, I know that there is a problem and he does need some help.
Does he recognize there's a problem? do you
Yes,
think?
he does. Yes.
Why do you say that?
We discuss it and he does admit that there is an anger problem. Yes.
Do you think he has a drug problem?
I know that he does smoke. As far as this being a problem, I can't say that. I found out that he was smoking. He hasn't come, I can't say that I've seen him high, or anything like that, so.
Where is his father?
He lives in Griffith.
Okay. Is there a relationship between Morris and his father?
His father tries. Morris is at the age now, kind of like he doesn't want to be bothered.
By his father?
Yes, with adults, I believe. He wants to do his own thing.
If the court were to decide that Morris need not be locked up any longer, would you be able to and willing to have him released to your custody?
I'm always willing, but I just wonder if that's what's best for him. Always willing.
Well, do you think it's best to keep him locked up?
Here, no, I don't. Because yesterday he expressed that it seems like the walls are closing in on him. And that's just not a good feeling.
Well, let me ask you then the question, because I'm not sure that you answered it.
Okay.
Are you in a position where you're willing to, if the court releases him, take him home today?
Yes.
And do you think that it's appropriate that he go home with you?
I'll try.
That's what you want to do?
I'll try.
You think home is the best place for him right now?
I can't say what the best place is for him. I just know that there's a problem and he does need help. I can say that. I can't say what the best place is for him.
That's what I'm trying to get at. Because sometimes I ask the question, you want to take your child home?
Okay.
Absolutely yes. Some people say absolutely not.
I mean, I definitely want him to be home with me, but I do know that there's a problem and he needs help. I do know that. So I can't say where the best place is for him. I don't think LCJC is the best place. No, I don't.
So he shouldn't stay here. You're willing to do your best,
Yes, I am.
and you're asking for help.
Yes, exactly.
That's all I have.
Yeah.
Mrs. Guzik?
Ms. Mosley, when Morris didn't come home because he had a court date,
Yes.
how long was he absent from home at that time?
What do you mean, how long?
How many days was he absent?
After the 24th?
Yes.
It was days. My other children told me they saw him. I went to the place where they supposedly saw him at. I was never able to get in touch with him. Everybody saw him except me.
Okay. So you didn't know where he was at?
I wasn't sure, no ma'am.
Okay, and he certainly didn't have your permission? Did he
No
go?
ma'am.
Okay. Have there been other times when he's left the home without your permission and you didn't know where he was at?
Leave, yes, but not spend the night, no.
Okay.
No. He never had a problem with curfew, no.
And you've told Mr. Wruck several times that you feel that Morris needs some services through the court, some
Yes.
counseling or something.
Yes,
Did the court attempt to provide him with counseling in the past?
yes,
Okay. And didn't he actively have counseling in place during the last few months?
yes,
Okay. Was he meeting with his counselor in July?
yes.
Okay. Was that through Circle Around Families?
But yes. Actually, it was a couple services. So it was a counselor, therapist, and 2 mentors.
How long has he been meeting with people from Circle Around Families?
I want to say a month,
Okay.
maybe. It hasn't been 3 months.
Okay. Did he meet with them in June?
Yes. I believe.
Do you know
in
Ms.
June.
Sanchez, Melissa Sanchez?
Yes.
Okay. Is that one of his counselors?
Yes.
Okay. So if Melissa Sanchez having a problem contacting your son, that's true or not true?
You said, is she what?
Would it be true or not true that Melissa Sanchez has had a problem contacting your son?
In the beginning, yes, she did, but he met with her more than any of them.
Okay.
Right.
Has she made a lot of contact to your home through telephone calls and Morris hasn't been available?
Honestly, she wasn't available either at the beginning. She would say certain times she wouldn't make it.
How many times did that happen?
For sure, it happened twice because I called off from work
Okay.
at the beginning.
Okay. How many times did Ms. Sanchez
Miss him?
make an appointment with him and he wasn't available?
I want to say 2 or 3.
Okay. Does he have a job?
No, ma'am.
Is he in school right now?
No.
So there would be no reason he should not be available.
Exactly. A couple times she came and she would call, and I told her that she should just go ring the doorbell because he would be there and would be asleep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And would he come to the door for her?
Yes.
Okay.
He liked her,
Okay.
not the others.
Okay. I have no further questions, Judge.
Anything else, Mr. Wruck?
Not of this witness, Judge.
Thank you, ma'am. You may have a seat back there.
Thank you.
Mrs. Guzik, I'm wondering if you want to question Mr. Fleming about the petition. He filed a modification petition on June 6th.
Yes.
Alleging that Morris had been gone from the home since June 3rd, which was
Right.
the reason for his filing of the modification. We didn't get into the actual details of the modification, but perhaps he could enlighten the court about what his recommendations are today and whether or not those are recommendations pending the modification hearing, or what exactly his recommendations are.
I was going to do that, Judge, so Mr. Fleming. Mr. Fleming, please state your name for the record.
Probation Officer Gordon Fleming.
And you're a probation officer for the Lake Superior Court Juvenile Division?
Yes, I am.
And as such, are you assigned to supervise Morris Burdett?
Yes, I am.
And how long have you been doing that?
He was placed on official probation on April the 4th of this
Okay.
year.
As part of his probation, Mr. Fleming, was he ordered to attend counseling?
Yes, he was.
And was that counseling set up by the court?
Yes, it was.
And what were the counseling services to be provided to Mr. Burdette?
Anger management, family counseling, individual counseling.
And who were those services being provided by?
And those services were being provided through Circle Around Family.
Okay. And have you been keeping track of how that counseling's going?
Yes, I have.
What have you been told about his counseling?
The last report that I got that Circle Around Family had seen him, they reported that the counseling was going well when they were able to give him counseling. There was an issue with him being available for counseling. And the report that I received, and I wrote in my probation hearing officer's report, was that on 3 occasions he was unavailable for counseling, and that also he had failed to meet with his mentors. And those issues revolved around him not being at home at the time.
And did Circle Around Families indicate that they were attempting to contact him?
Yes.
And were those contacts successful?
No, they weren't.
Okay. Now, you've heard talk about Morris not being at home when he's supposed to be. What do you know about that?
Well, on June the 3rd, I received a phone call from his mother that he had left home, and on June the 6th, when I filed my petition for modification, he had not returned home at that time.
Okay.
I filed a modification. We set the modification hearing. The magistrate set the hearing for July the 24th, and at that hearing, he failed to appear.
Mr. Fleming, did you ever tell Morris that you were going to have him sent away to a placement for 2 years?
No,
Okay. Do you know if anybody from the court ever told him that?
not to my knowledge.
Okay. Did you ever hear Magistrate Miller tell him that?
No, he hasn't.
Okay. What would you like to see in the interim prior to a modification happen with Morris today?
I would recommend to the court that he remains detained
Okay. Yeah, to what goal?
until we have the modification, and I had really at his modification recommended that he go on intensive probation, but he's been gone for around a month now that we're going to staff this for placement.
So you think that perhaps intensive probation will not be appropriate for him at
No,
this time?
I believe it's not appropriate for him.
I have no further questions for Mr. Fleming.
Mr. Wruck?
How long have you been at this, sir, as a probation officer?
11 years.
In that 11 years, have you seen a lot of kids who, when they're given services, it takes them a while to adjust before they kind of get on board and start improving?
Yes, in some instances.
Now, with respect to Morris, you had previously recommended that he undergo anger management, and you had recommended family counseling and counseling services,
Yeah.
correct? What was
Yes.
the reason that you ordered those services?
Well, this was based upon his case history, which was the anger, and most of the anger had happened within the household and with his mother. And she was having a hard time controlling him and reasoning with him
So he had problems following rules of the household, is that right?
at that time. Yes.
Respecting authority?
Yes,
Getting angry in response to authority?
yes.
Okay. So when did the counseling and when did the anger management classes begin?
Well, I don't know the exact date when it began. It was ordered in April. And
Of 2008, correct?
Yes,
So we're talking about 3 or 4 months ago.
yes.
He missed 3 of the counseling sessions. How many
3.
did he attend?
I'm not sure.
More than 10?
No,
More than 5?
I doubt that.
Sir, I think I understand your testimony to be that because Morris is not as available or participating with these services to the extent that you think appropriate, that he should just remain locked up.
Well, I'm basing that upon him running away from home, his mother not knowing where he is. I personally have seen him with an older group of young men and I've put him in my car and taken him home. He has failed a couple of drug tests. Morris has told me on several occasions that whatever I do is not going to work, and I've explained to him that whatever I do, I'm going to attempt to help him.
Well, that's my point, sir.
Yes.
Isn't it true, taking a step back, that the problems he's having that are leading you to recommend he remain detained, not following through with the counseling or being difficult to get a hold of and not completing the anger management classes, are more symptoms of the problem that caused you to order those services to begin with?
Well, not only that, Morris is a type of young man, and I've known him for a little while now. When he gets an attitude, he will just walk out of the house and his mother won't know where he is. I truly believe Morris won't show up for his next hearing.
Do you believe that with a court order today that tells Morris, and based on what you heard Morris testify to today, that he is going to avoid going through the therapy and the counseling that you said he needs?
You say he's going to avoid it?
Do you think he'll avoid it?
Well, I really don't know if he will, but he has avoided it on several occasions.
Sir,
And, I'm sorry.
finally, isn't this just a case of a young man who's got some serious issues? You recognize those. You order the services. And his rough start, so to speak, with the services is simply evidence of the problem that caused you to order those services to begin with. Why don't we let it work itself through some more? Let's let this counseling take hold, the anger management take hold, before we say the answer is just to keep him locked up.
Well, that would be fine, but Morris has tended to befriend some young men. One, for instance, is across the street who was shot the other day in a drive-by shooting. And his associates and the young people that he's been associating with, I believe it's safer for Morris to be here for us to work with Morris.
So now it's an issue of him being safe?
Well, that's one of the issues, yes.
Okay. That's all I have, Judge.
Anything else, Mrs. Guzik?
Mr. Fleming, just to reiterate, though, the main issue is you fear that Morris won't be present for future hearings.
Absolutely.
And that's based on his past behavior.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
I just have one question that doesn't have anything to do with this. Has he had a psychological evaluation?
Yes, he has.
It's been completed.
It's been completed.
No further questions, Judge.
Thank you. You may have a seat back there. Very good. Then this morning, my only decision is whether or not he should remain detained or released pending staffing of his case before the probation department to determine what the next steps will be. Will he be released as originally recommended on intensive probation back at home with services, or perhaps placed, depending on what the probation department recommends? What is your argument today, sir, about release or detention, if you have any?
Judge, I mean, again, I think this is what came clear at the very end of the questioning of the probation officer. This young man has a series of problems that were thankfully identified by this court. And there were some recommendations that were put in place and some services that were ordered to deal with those problems 3 months ago. Those services just began to address the very problem that led him to be non-compliant in part with those services. My guess is this isn't the first time we've seen somebody resist going to counseling and resist going to anger management. I think those are issues that need to be addressed through that process. Nothing has changed dramatically that says now he's a flight risk. He's here today. I think by all intents and purposes, he certainly understands what happened. His mother understands what happened and the significance of it, and I think he understands that he needs to be back. And more importantly, this young man wants help. He's 16 right now, and if he doesn't get that help, I think that, you know, that things can certainly unravel for him even more. What good will it do to keep him locked up at this point? What additional good will that do? Judge, for those reasons, I would request that he be released today with the restrictions that he says he needs. This is a man with problems that need help. This is a man who puts holes through the wall when the going gets tough. His mom's here to say that I think she's willing to at least do her best to take him home today.
Thank you. Mrs. Guzik?
Judge, there's several criteria the court has to assess in determining whether or not this young man should remain detained here today. One is whether or not he's a danger to himself or the community. Certainly, the testimony we've heard today would indicate that Morris is a danger to himself. He's out on the street. His mother doesn't know where he's at. This is for days at a time. He's not employed, so I don't know how he's managing to remain out on the street. He's using drugs. He's testing positive for marijuana as he comes into the juvenile center. Mr. Fleming's testified that he's associating with people that seem to be very dangerous. One friend was injured in a drive-by shooting the other day. Certainly, he is participating in actions which are endangering his life. The court also has to assess whether or not he's unlikely to appear for subsequent proceedings. By absenting himself from his hearing on July 24th, 2008, he's proven that he is unlikely to appear for subsequent proceedings. He knew he had to come to court. His mother told him he had to come to court. There's some story he was afraid that he was going to be locked up for 2 years, but nobody from the court told him that. So I'm not real sure about that story either. That's Morris's reason for not coming. I'm not so sure that that's true because Morris has a tendency not to tell the truth about a lot of things. For the very reasons cited by Mr. Fleming, I would ask that he remain detained.
All right. Mr. Fleming, how often does your department staff cases? On an individual basis, or do you have a certain date each week or each month that you do that?
Each week on Mondays.
Each week on Mondays. So if I order that you staff this case, it will be done Monday the 25th? Okay. After listening to all the arguments and assessing the witnesses, I would say that the mother, Mrs. Mosley, certainly, gave her heartfelt testimony, and I could feel for her as a parent when she said she's willing, always willing, and that's what a good mother does, is never gives up on your child. But I also think what she didn't go on to say, which I think she probably would admit to, is that he's a little bit of a handful for her, and that she would like to know and testify and swear before this court under oath that he would be in court. But frankly, I don't think she can guarantee the court that he would be here. More importantly to me is that he's out on the street doing some very dangerous things. Mr. Fleming testified that one of his friends is currently in the Lake County Jail, victim or involved in a drive-by shooting. And if we all know that when you lay down with dogs, you get fleas. And so at some point, this is going to happen to you if you continue to do that. And when this petition was filed, he was gone for 3 days at that time. And since then, he's been pretty much gone from home since July 24th, and today is August 18th. So this young man has been living on the street or between friends or doing something that he shouldn't be doing, all because he was afraid to come to court. And I'm sure he was afraid, but at the same time, he didn't appear for court. He endangered himself and maybe others. And for those reasons, the court is going to order that he remain detained pending his next hearing, because there's an unlikelihood that he will appear for a subsequent hearing. But in the meantime, I'm going to order that this matter be staffed by your department for disposition. And we'll come back to court. The date is, if they do it on the 25th, I'm assuming you can have your report ready by the 29th, which would be Friday. I don't know if you can have it done that quickly. The following Monday is a holiday, so we wouldn't be in court. So the next date we could possibly be in court would be Friday, September 5th. Would that date, would you have a report ready, Mr. Fleming?
Your Honor, we would have the report ready, but we would need time to send out the packages and to get a reply, which would take another week.
So what are you thinking? September 8th is a Monday. Is that enough time? It would, if you do it Monday the 25th, it would give you about a week, almost 2 weeks. Is that enough?
Yes, we'll try.
All right. Then I'll set this matter for disposition on Monday, September 8th, 2008 at 9 a.m. Are there any questions? Judge?
No, Judge.
All right, then this hearing's adjourned. Thank you.
Want to say anything to your mother?
I'll see you at 1:30.
He's all right. He won't cut me off in my place.
Okay, it's okay. I'll see you at 1:30, all right? And you're going to be all right. I'll be here all day, every day.
Okay.
Love you.
No, you too.
Hang in there.
I want to move on to another case that was rather dramatic, and that was the case of Morris. And Morris was also brought in at that time he was police found him trespassing, sitting on the stoop of an apartment building, smoking weed with some friends, brought him into the detention center. Now, we're talking, what's it been, 12 years?
Yeah.
At least. And our laws and our attitudes regarding marijuana have obviously changed a lot since then. It's legal in a lot of states now. It's still not legal in Indiana. But a lot of our viewers were outraged that a kid could be picked up for smoking weed and being high. But let's look back at how things were 12 years ago when this case was filmed. Do you recall meeting Morris and representing him, and what your thoughts were at that time?
Yeah, no, I remember Morris very well. I mean, when you first meet Morris, at least when I did, he seemed extraordinarily sweet and quiet. He, was soft-spoken, and it took a little while to get him to open up. Some of the extended footage you have, I think, shows that it took some time to get him beyond the guard, I think, that he had developed. It was clear that he was used to trying to protect himself, probably from saying the wrong thing to the wrong people at the wrong time. So, he was the kind of client that I had who, wasn't in there for something that you would think is something anybody should go to jail or prison for. But the concern is that a symptom of something more serious that's going on? Now, even though, the attitudes toward marijuana use and the time since Morris was involved have changed significantly. Given his age at the time, it'd be no different than if he was doing that same thing but was intoxicated at the time. He's still a minor, and even though we may not view marijuana with the same level of a scrutiny that we still certainly wouldn't want to see somebody of his age, at that time of day, high, as opposed to doing the more productive things we want kids his age to be doing. So I didn't have a problem with the arrest and getting him involved with the juvenile court system, because what we wanted to do with Morris really is stop this from leading to something else. If you're high all the time, you're not going to school, you're not doing your homework, you're not doing the other responsibilities that you have. And when those things start falling off, at that age, things can turn from a simple marijuana case to then truancy to drug use. Things can get out of hand quickly. So Morris is a great example of the kind of case where the juvenile court system gets involved, not necessarily just to punish the simple crime, if you will, but to try and right the ship to make sure that Morris hopefully doesn't get further off track.
Right. I know when we were talking about Roderick, you were saying one of the things that was so helpful was that his mom was so supportive and gave him the tough love that he needed. And Morris's mom played a huge role in his case, especially when it came time for his court hearing. And I remember a very dramatic time in the courtroom when his mom was on the stand and you asked her if she would be willing to take Morris home. And her response was, "I'm always willing, but I'm just wondering if that's the best option right now." And I, as a producer in the courtroom, the minute she said "but," knew this case was probably about to take a turn, because the judge heard that, you heard that. How difficult or unexpected was that moment in court? And do you know, as an attorney ahead of time, that something like this can happen?
Well, one of the things I would say is that dynamic that we saw with Morris's mom and her stated willingness yet obvious unwillingness to take Morris home is one of the things that's very unique to these juvenile cases. If this was a drug charge in adult court and somebody was charged with possession of marijuana, the discussion in the courtroom is not going to be, can the parent take the child home and would it be safe? So this is a great example of one of the unique aspects of the juvenile court system as it functions, that we're even asking these questions, that we're asking questions of the parents, because what we want to understand is there the appropriate and necessary support at home to continue with the rehabilitation of the issue involved, in this case Morris's marijuana use. So obviously the juvenile court is not looking to keep permanent custody of kids or put kids in jail indefinitely, right? I mean, that's what waiver to the adult court in prison is all about. Our job is to get kids in, punish them a little bit, rehabilitate them more so, and hopefully deter them from engaging in the same type of activity or something worse in the future. But the goal is always not to keep them locked up. It's to send them back home to their family. So it's a critical component of any of these cases. With respect to Morris, I had a sense that that's where the mother was going. I did meet with her beforehand, and we discussed it, and it wasn't entirely clear. She was thinking about it, and certainly I try and gently push towards that, knowing that that's ultimately what Morris wants. But at the same time, you don't want to push it too hard and send them back home to an environment that results in them coming right back again.
You know, it also came out during court and during the time that I interviewed Morris, and during his visitation with his mom, that he had this anger problem, this really deep-seated anger problem, which was very sad to me at such a young age. But that anger problem also seemed to weigh heavily into his mom's decision about saying he wasn't ready to come home. How often do you see this in kids that you represent? Because just as a producer, we seem to see it over and over and over again, this issue of kids at a very young age having a lot of anger.
Yeah, anger is a big part of what we see. Mental health issues generally are something that even more so now than when we filmed. I think the court's a little, and all the professionals are even more mindful of trying to delve into to kind of get to the root of what's going on. But I also think that the whole spectrum of mental health issues with young kids has gotten worse with social media and all of their actions being judged by their peers in real time, and the desire to outcool somebody else and get instant responses and instant likes from as many people as you can. And on the other side of that, seeing that other people have things that you don't and how great their lives are and yours aren't. I mean, all of those things, particularly when you have children who aren't always supervised at home, they're left alone for hours on devices, and this is constantly reinforced. It takes those predispositions of, you know, a lot of these kids growing up in homes where they do have a lot of depression or fear or anger, where they're constantly worried about not worried about the simple things like what's for dinner, but worried about, is dad going to come home drunk? Is he going to beat mom? Is there going to be drugs sold across the street? Am I going to get shot walking to school? I mean, those types of fears understandably lead to significant mental health issues that I think have only been really reinforced and made worse with social media over the last decade or so. So it's very common.
You know, it is true. So much has changed in the whole social media atmosphere since we first filmed, and how that weighs into kids, mental health today. It's really just unbelievable to think of the difference that a decade can make.
Yeah.
I remember at one point during Morris's court hearing, he was being less than truthful on the stand. And you said to the judge, can I have a minute with my client? And you walked up to the stand and you whispered to him, listen.
Don't lie.
He said, listen, she has all the information in front of her. Don't lie. Yeah. Can you, thinking back to that, is that stressful for you? Trying to do your best to represent them and then to have a kid. Obviously, he was still a kid,
Sure.
Kids do those things.
Yeah.
But do you remember that moment in court?
Oh yeah, no, it was clear that the questions the judge was asking, she already knew the answers to. And it's clear that she was asking to get a sense of how much of the responsibility he was willing to take for what happened. And I knew as the lawyer that if he simply acknowledged what happened and had some type of repentance for what happened, that things would very much be moving in our direction. But the single biggest thing you can do to destroy your case is to lie on the stand, whether you're a child or an adult. It never ends up well. There's probably a little more latitude if you're a child under these circumstances to get away with it, which is why I felt okay going up to the stand, shaking him a little bit and letting him re-answer the question.
and which he did. But you know, you don't want to destroy your credibility when the next questions are going to be, are you going to do this again when you go home? If you just lied on a simple question, it makes it much more difficult to credibly answer the important questions.
Sure.